So our first topic is what we at Alarmtech would call consumer products. So these are things that are available online or over the counter. And while we do have an option that we offer, mostly people are shopping for these, as I say, online, Amazon, or these are the products that consumers see advertised on Facebook or the internet on different platforms. So tell us what we know about these different options and in relation to power, mounting, etc.
There are obviously a few different models, makes that are shown up here, but one thing is fairly consistent in the two examples that we show there, and that is that the cameras are all exactly the same. These cameras, the ones on the left, look like they are probably hardwired back to the network video recorder. The ones on the right need power, looks like, but they are probably wired back as well, and could be also they could be a Wi-Fi type camera product. So one of the issues with the kits, and or one of the positives, is that cost effective. The manufacturer knows they're going to sell this little bundle, and they're going to sell 6 cameras, even though maybe all you need is 4, or maybe you only need 3, but they're going to be selling these kits, and they know that they're going to all go out. On a disadvantage that we find is that not every location needs the same type of camera. So most of these cameras are going to be extremely wide angles. They're going to have the widest angle, so to see the most of the property. However, they know they will then not be able to see things that are maybe at a farther distance away. So at certain times we might be wanting to look down a laneway for like vehicles or something like that, and we won't be able to get a very good picture because we can't zoom into the laneway. Other concerns might be the kind of lighting conditions that they are. Does it go down to the light levels that are required in a certain location? So although Alarmtech may start with a kit, quite often we always have some slots open to be able to customize the kit. Anything else, Campbell, I might have missed?
Nope, you said most of it. The only thing that I would maybe keep an eye out for the over-the-shelf or consumer products is I have seen a couple of camera kits that don't come with infrared or night vision. So as soon as, like Bob said, as soon as the light conditions get to a certain point, the cameras don't see anything. So
the other
to watch out for.
Yeah, one other thing that I thought of that I've seen in the field where a kit's been implemented, and the one that really rings a bell was a small variety store, and they had a bunch of kits, and we upgraded it to ours, but the cables that come with the kit are of a certain length. They usually make them fairly long so that they can be used in many different applications and wire runs, and they're all pre-terminated because clients don't necessarily know how to put the proper ends on the cable. So behind this DVR on this shelf was hundreds of feet of wire and cable from multiple cameras, creating a big squirrel's nest of, I would say, ugliness in behind the DVR and the MVR. And when we do it, we custom make every cable, we terminate it so that it looks nice, dressed up, and in your business or home.
Now, one of the things that isn't shown here but is available online is a standalone camera that is, touted as wireless, i.e., you don't have to run a wire for power. So, therefore, tell me a little bit about how those cameras work.
Well, yeah, there are cameras that are wireless. They have a rechargeable battery inside them. They could have a non-rechargeable battery as well, but most of the time there'll be a rechargeable battery or battery kit. And so anytime the camera is going to send off video, those cameras are going to utilize the battery power. If it's at night or dark, it may have to illuminate with infrared the scene, which uses energy as well. Then it's going to send video via Wi-Fi, which is going to use power back to the head end or into the cloud for cloud storage. And sometimes these units will have a little SD card in them as well. So one of the issues is now you have to worry about batteries. So you're going to be climbing a ladder, depending on how high you put it. If you put it too low, then the camera is going to be susceptible to theft, very easily theft. So if you put them up high, you're going to be climbing the ladder, winter, summer, fall, whatever time that the cameras go dead. So they're a constant bit of a nuisance, and the camera battery life will depend on the activity in the area. So they're going to record based on video motion or move, changing pixels. So in a highly active area, you're going to be changing these batteries quite often.
I remember that Alarmtech provided a quote for a cafe inn, or an inn that also had a cafe in it. He had purchased more than one camera kit online, installed it himself, which is a lot more work than people maybe think it is. He wasn't completely happy with his aesthetics, but he was really fed up with the changing of the batteries. And while we were having lunch in his cafe before giving him his quote, we looked up the cameras that he had purchased online. Like, none of the cameras on the screen are Alarmtech offerings. These are all what we call consumer products available retail. And calculated the battery power for these cameras that were mounted in a busy cafe that also became a bar and restaurant at night. So pretty well up to 18 hours a day of movement, in maybe more because of cleaning after hours. So breakfast, lunch, dinner, evening, bar, and then cleaning. So maybe more than 20 hours a day of constant movement meant he got about just a little over 24 hours a day, I think, out of the batteries. So no wonder when we were sitting there, a couple of the cameras were not working. And people tell us that this is what happens. They buy something like this. It's the price point is attractive. There's some work on the part of the camera owner, which sounds reasonable. And as time goes by, becomes just another chore that you don't do because nothing happened and you didn't need the camera last week and now it's dead and you don't want to do that work, and then you don't do that work, and then you don't have the camera when you need it. So those are some of the reasons that people come to us for a professional solution after having invested in this solution. So if right away you realize that's not for me, I have different things that I want to do with my cameras, so 6 of the same is not going to suit me, and I am not interested in changing batteries constantly, cleaning lenses myself and things like that, then you might want a different solution. Anything else before we leave this page?
No, I think we're fine. Campbell? So
even wireless batteries need power. So a lot of people are surprised about this. As the camera sounds magical, wireless. So yeah, it's either batteries or it's wiring. And this is a challenge that people tell us about as well when installing their own, to be able to, do you know how to do that? So I'll let you folks speak to what's involved with, like the camera on the left is, obviously installed on brick. And where's that wire going to? This is not a picture of an Alarmtech installation. None of these 3 are either. These are stock photos, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, obviously getting that wire, that power wire, if that's all it is, or it could be doing the video as well, back to where it's supposed to be. It either needs to, if it's just power, get to an electrical outlet that you can plug in. That really is unlikely to be outside, or you're going to hurt the adapter that's being used unless you put it into an enclosure that's proper. but it's hard to dress the wire. Our technicians are doing it all the time. It's their job getting wires from one place to the other. If there is a route to get the wires and hide them and make it as nice looking as possible, our guys are going to find that route. You may not have the experience to know the differences and how to get through software, how to get inside, maybe into an attic, and it takes quite a bit of work sometimes to get that cable dressed up properly. So although the price point of just the hardware seems very attractive, if you get the hardware and you go, oh, I want it installed, your installation's going to be way more than the parts that you purchased in most cases. So, better off to get a firm quote on exactly what you're looking for, where it's going to go, how it's going to be wired. It's going to be done right, and you're going to be happy with the results. So, all these you can see. Maybe even installed in the wrong location where you're underneath an eave trough or something like that, where ice and water is dripping on the camera all winter long. That camera's not going to last nearly as long as if it was properly installed in a proper place. People sometimes put them on, I don't know if that's on a roof line or not, but you should really have screw holes going through your roof, or you can introduce other issues of water and ice inside your home.
Mm-hmm. Pretty well, every week or two, we get a request from someone who's purchased cameras through a retail outlet, and now, as Bob said, they're faced with trying to figure out how to install it, and they realize, I really want some help, and they ask us for it because we have an excellent reputation for doing a great job. However, we do not stand behind consumer products, so we stand behind the line of equipment that we've selected, that we would quote to you in a professional consultation, knowing that it's going to deliver satisfaction. So we do not do that. We do not install kits that were purchased online for all those reasons. Whereas if you call someone like Campbell to your house or business and he quotes the whole job, he picks the camera that's right, he picks the location that can be beautifully and successfully installed, and then he can deliver a promise that we can stand behind.
The other thing that can happen is you can have a camera that's bad out of the box, we call it. And then if you bought the camera from someone and you've got someone else to install it, who's responsible? Was it the installer that did something wrong that hurt the camera, or is it an actual hardware issue? So it can get very complicated, and hence it's just not really worth Alarmtech's time to install other equipment from other manufacturers.
Yeah. Campbell, anything before we move on?
No, I think Bob covered it wonderfully.
I also just wanted to say, to let people know that we interviewed a technician who worked for a big company, well-known, and he installed cameras, and we asked him, because we sometimes quote against this company, how is it that they can quote an installed camera for X price and we're quoting it for X plus Y? And he said, well, my instructions are, so for example, I guess the camera on the left here, example, it's not one of our cameras, but you want it on the back of your house overlooking your back deck, want it right there on the brick, that's fine. He drills right through the side of your house into wherever it is. So maybe it's your dining room wall, and drops a wire down your wall and finds the nearest electrical outlet to plug it into. So that's why that company can quote so much less time to install your camera, because if we were installing your camera on your back wall that is behind your dining room, we will be fishing that wire out of sight down inside your wall, or in, we'll be running a different aesthetically pleasing route. So the salesperson certainly didn't outline that to the client when they were selling it, that there's going to be a wire running down the inside of your wall, and the technician simply just does it that way when he arrives. So sometimes we hear stories that are a bit of a surprise because we would never even consider doing that to someone's dining room wall, but apparently that happens.
Yeah, and I would never consider, because they may not have even seen the house or the installation at all. It could have been an online order of this or that and a camera included or thrown in or whatever. That's the issue with it. You don't know where it's going to go. They don't know where it's going to go. And if they've included installation, that amount of installation is very low number of minutes or possibly an hour, but what we were looking at was a lot less than that, less than a half an hour to install a camera. So.
Yeah. Okay, so our next topic is how is the recording made, delivered, and stored in different applications? And harkening back to our sort of beginning point, where people have a lot of interest is in consumer products they've seen advertised, and it's going to be a free app. And so I've just made 2 notes here that a free app eventually will not be supported, and eventually will likely not be secure. So those are just 2 points that I want to make. But I know we have cameras, Total Connect cameras that work on an app. And then, of course, later on, we're going to talk more about a real, a CCTV system with the DVR and VR. But you want to talk, guys, a little bit about how the recordings are made, delivered, and stored, and the different options for people?
So a lot of the cameras that will be this free app standalone type cameras, they will send video. They may store video, like I said, on an SD card on the unit, but if that unit's outside, that can really easily be stolen or taken away. So they'll usually back something up to the cloud. That's where you're going to end up paying some money for it. They may have an app where you can access and do a live view of a camera that they allow for free, but they're going to want to get some monetization for storage at some point in time. There's been a lot of startup companies that provide a product. You think of the Ring doorbell and some of the other ones that come out with the beginning a free app, and then they have a premium service that some people will buy into. That's a pay for the app, and then sometimes they even knock off the free app, and all you have available is a pay for app. If you're not getting paid for providing an app or software in some way, shape, or form, then you can't keep supporting it. It becomes this big elephant of many, many clients and no money coming in. I look at Candy Crush or whatever, free app, but they're monetizing it by selling ads. So you have to, one way or another, someone needs to monetize it. So that's where you end up getting stuck sometimes on the free app side of things.
Yeah, one thing that I would add to that, Bob, is going back to the SD cards. Not only is it a risk for the SD card and the camera to be stolen, but if an SD card is not properly covered by a weatherproof door or some sort of seal, it can also be damaged by the weather if it's outside. Like the camera we saw in the previous picture, it could be covered in ice. So not only is it compromised by way of theft, but can also be compromised by the elements as well. And that goes as far with consumer product cameras as well. Just got to watch out for the water resistance or waterproof rating on them as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you look at a lot of those cameras on the page before, they're just plastic shells with the video camera inside plastic. So there are 2 things. There's an IP rating, which is a water rating for the camera, how much water penetration it can take. And then there's an IK rating, which is how much whacking with a hammer that the camera can take. So both of those are,
how much abuse it can take.
yeah, how much abuse can the camera take? So a lot of them, you know, if you took a hammer to it, or even if you just grabbed onto it and ripped on it, you'd break it and pull it off. So there's two issues on that side too.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I am, learning about as, being attached to this company and hearing a lot of things is, a lot of recording, if it's not coming back to a DVR or NVR, it's a clip-based recording stored generally in the cloud. Is that right? And tell us about clips and sort of the pros and cons, or the different levels of clip-based recording that there is.
Yeah, so I can talk a little bit about the Total Connect cameras. So our Total Connect cameras, which are our outdoor ones a little bit hardened. The indoor ones are plastic cased. But what they'll do is send a video clip of 30 seconds. And you can also arrange for it to send that on a -5 seconds to +5 seconds based on motion. So what that means is, because I'm wired up, I'm not a battery operated camera, and that's a failure on the battery operated ones. But because I've got power, I can do this. What I do is I'm always recording, or I'm always storing just a buffer of some video, 5 seconds, so that when I notice motion, I can include that previous 5 seconds in what I'm going to send out to the cloud. And it's the same for a DVR and NVR. The battery operated ones aren't going to do that because they want to stay asleep until they see motion and wake up. And so there won't be any video pre alarm. Once that time is up, I stop recording because my clip is done, and I send it off through the internet to the cloud storage. And then I'm waiting for another bit of motion, which may never have even stopped, but my camera recording has stopped. And then I start up again, and I might send another clip and another clip. So the issue is whether or not you have the actual event during a recording, or do you have that event during a time lapse between clips. So we've had a few people say, yeah, I saw everything until boom, and then it was all gone. Why was that? It was all gone. I didn't see what the person did, so I didn't have anything, and that's why.
Right. So to use a different sort of example, so you could see two people engaged in what looks like an altercation, and then you could see one person on the ground and the other person leaving, but you don't see the punch because that's between the stopping of the first clip and the starting of the second clip. So you can have good or bad luck with clips.
Right. And with the systems, we've got a hard drive that can record like all kinds of videos. So we can just keep recording while the motion is there, and just record and record and record until it stops.
Okay. Well, I think just before we move on, yeah. So, oh no, let me see. Okay, yeah, professionally installed IP camera. So, now before we talk about this one, so one of the sort of consumer accessible products that Alarmtech does sell that can be used on its own with the Total Connect app, or integrated into a security system that uses the Total Connect app. So you have, am I right? You have your alarm events and your camera events all in one app. But I think the product that I'm talking about is the Skybell doorbell. And that's something that sometimes we sell to someone and they install themselves, or we install both ways. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And then now on this screen, we're moving up to something different. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, so this is some installation done by Alarmtech. Certain times, Nancy mentioned that we can fish a wall. Other times you need to surface mount. So on the far left, there's a camera there, and we needed to run a conduit to put our wire in and run that up onto the roof and find our route down. So nice and straight, as easy as possible, and as visually nice to look at as we can. You can notice that we even did our best to match the mortar and stone with the conduit that's there. The next one in the middle, you can see we actually went right through the back of the camera into the building. So possibly into a ceiling tile space, that kind of thing. All the wiring is protected. That camera is a dome camera, and it was probably IK60. It can take a hammer whack, not forever. Anything will start cracking. And then there's a couple more cameras, another setup where we go into a few boxes around the corner, 2 cameras in 1 camera run, and all nice and neatly dressed up on the outside of the building. And then just showing some of the work that might have to happen on the inside, and rental of a scissor lift, and we can run the wires securely inside the building back to where the digital recorder is, which is the unit. Top of the screen, they're shown in a housing locked box. So that is all to slow people down from stealing the digital video recorder. It'll be somewhere inside the premise, so you have to break into the premise before you can get at it to begin with, in a locked box, and securely fastened on this one to a wall enclosure. So a few good ideas here.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Campbell, you have anything before I move on?
Nope. Also well explained by Bob.
Okay. Oh, here's another Alarmtech installation here. This looks like possibly a home.
Yes, this is the home. I'm aware of this one, and this is a Total Connect camera.
Okay.
So it's an outdoor Total Connect camera. You can kind of see the little black antenna on the top of the middle. So it is Wi-Fi based. This is the kind of camera that'll send a video clip of 30 seconds to the cloud. The client can access it through their Total Connect app. This particular client also has a security system, so that they can arm, disarm, access their security system with the same app that they see their video. So the wire, like you can't even really see the wire, but it's not plugged in where it is right now. It's plugged in somewhere else. We put it onto that single gang box so that we could get the connection looking nice and hidden away. And then the cables run along the awning, or I think it's a screen, a security screen for that Windows set.
Oh.
Yeah, so looks pretty decent.
Yeah, this reminds me of the other tool that Alarmtech has access to that the general consumer doesn't, and that is this back box. So this camera, the round white with the screws in it, that's what the camera is, but this box is something that we used to improve the installation of this camera. So we also, if we're installing on uneven brick surfaces, etc., we have different back boxes that we can utilize to make the camera installation proper and last and be secure, etc. So consumers, however, on their own, out on their driveway, with their purchased kit, are looking at, well, I really want it here on my brick, but it's really, how do I really do that? and protect the back of the camera, etc. So those are the challenges that our team is used to dealing with. And we have lots of ways of handling it. And when our consultant is out looking, he can say, well, we've got this surface, that surface, and this surface to work with. So we're going to either need, different mounting boxes or different approaches. But we know those approaches and we have the proper tools to do them. So, okay, so now we're on to the highest level and most expensive option for camera systems, and yet frequently selected because of the advantages of those systems. So I'll let you guys tell us about those.
Yes, so we've got two different options here, DVR and NVR. So DVR is a digital video recorder. It's an analog video system. So the cameras that go into a DVR generally with a BNC connector, you'll have video going down one wire and you'll have power going down a different wire to these cameras. The advantage sometimes with the DVR is now we have high definition video that we can do over coaxial cable. And if it's a large place or a place that's already deployed video, it's probably older, they're looking at upgrading, they want better quality video. And we can save a ton of money by using the existing wire runs, because that's a big part of the expense of deploying a video system. So we can get high resolution over our new HD coax DVRs. These Storm ones that we have here also have some IP channels, so they can do some IP video, because lots of times nowadays, if it's a new install, we're going to run Cat5 or Cat6 cable to each camera. They really only require Cat5. Like Cat5e is what we generally use, because it's one camera per cable and the bandwidth just isn't that high. So we'll run that back to the DVR or the NVR, and the NVR that we pick will most likely have a PoE switch in it. And PoE is power over Ethernet. So that one cable run that we run will do the power up the camera, and it will do the video back to the NVR, and it can be two directional. So with a PTZ camera, we can move and control the camera. Other cameras, we can zoom in and out, that kind of thing. So we have two-way communication over that network cable. So those are kind of the two differences. And then we come in, they come in what we call channels. So the least expensive is going to be 4 channels, and they come in various hard drives. So your least expensive probably be a 4-channel, 1 terabyte recorder, which will do great for a small store or a house, some houses. Then they go up to 8, and our Storm is 8 plus 2 IP channels. And then they go up to 16, and then they'll go up to 32. And then there are specialty ones that'll go higher than that, but they won't include a PoE switch. It'd be a separate thing. So it's nice, clean, and we don't have to generally worry too much about storage. We get, from weeks of storage to months of storage, and it's all based on activity. So, and how we set it up. And so we don't want to waste recording on when nothing's happening. So with the video motion recording, then we don't have to record. If you looked at the camera, you would see the background of the room with nothing happening in it, but it would actually just be a frozen frame of video because nothing's changing. And then as soon as someone walks in the room, then you'll see that activity, and the recording will start again. 5, 10, 15 seconds is like your choice now, pre-recording, setting it down, and post-recording. So you don't you don't miss the person coming actually through the door where you might with some of the other systems. And then some of the newer boxes too, we have all kinds of little extra analytic things like intrusion detection, line crossing, face detection. There's a bunch of new features in the new boxes that can become useful. That's it.
One of the bullet points here is security and retrieval. So what are the security features of this kind of recording?
Well, I guess the first security feature would be that the video is recorded somewhere inside the protected premise. So that's a great piece of security. The video is watermarked, so it can't be tampered with, so it can be held up as evidence in court of law. That's another bunch of security. It stays on site, so you have access to it remotely. So you can have these boxes send you events when video motion detection comes to your programmed in device. These boxes, you're spending a substantial amount on the equipment, the hardware, the cameras, everything else. So they do come with an app, and they do come with a free app, and that app is kept up to date because the manufacturers want to keep selling these systems and make the new stuff compatible with the older stuff. So yeah, so, and when we use the DVR too, the network video or the digital video recorder that does the analog, you don't have to replace all your cameras if you're doing an upgrade. We can go back and record a standard video stream if it's good enough for you for that particular location. You can upgrade certain ones that you say, well, you know what, I've never been able to see the cash register very well. I want a better camera, a higher definition camera there to see that. But this general observation of the back corner, I just want to see that the guys are working or that kind of thing. So I can pick and choose.
Yeah, I remember knowing that that's happened with quite a few of our clients where they'd invested, originally in a smaller system that used the technology of the day and the budget of the day. And now some years have gone by and they want something better, which Bob has explained here can be integrated old and new. And they move their old cameras, like Bob said, for general observation of the lobby or, back employee entrance or whatever, and then put the new cameras in where really it's always been the issue, where the old cameras were when they were the best, but now the new cameras are the best and they're in the main spots. But in the end, you've got, double the system. So
the other thing, when we're not sending everything out to the cloud, we can store in much higher resolution on the box locally on site. So, it's not all outbound data going out your internet pipe. And on that, like, internet's getting better and better all the time, and the compressions are getting better as well. So these boxes use H.265 plus, which just means you can store a lot more video on the box. It also means when you're sending it out on the internet, it uses less bandwidth, so you can get away with more. And then you're only accessing video when you want to see video. So you're only accessing that video stream when you want to take a look in or see recorded video. And these boxes, when you're remoting into it, they're using your upload bandwidth, not your download. So a lot of places have a much higher download speed because we're always on the internet downloading websites and video and stuff like that. But these systems need the upload for it to get to you and your mobile device.
Okay. And I guess the last little comment is, you know, IT management is necessary. Maybe I shouldn't have put the word necessary, but IT management is usually involved in this, eh, Bob?
Yeah, so in corporate, we would work very heavily with the IT of the company because we put the PoE switch right into the recording device itself. It's on its own separate network, so it doesn't affect the client's network, which is very important. So video takes a lot of bandwidth. We don't want to mess up someone's business because we've added a bunch of cameras to it. Some clients will have us put a camera in a remote location, and they'll want it. Their IT people will say, okay, we'll allocate a certain amount of bandwidth for that remote PTZ camera on this building somewhere 5 miles away, and we can do that. And we obviously not going to run a wire 5 miles, so we'll have to use that kind of technology to do that. So we'll work with the IT, but residentially, small commercial, these places don't have IT companies there just to grab a hold of. So we can do the setup. We have an IT guy, and we can set it up securely in your new home or in your small business.
Right. All right. So just a few different styles of cameras. I don't know if maybe Campbell wants to go first and talk about a few of them.
Sure. So as you can see in front of us, cameras come in all shapes and sizes. Bullet cameras are typically used outside, industrial kind of places where cameras are welcome to be seen. Then you have dome cameras and mini dome cameras. They're more physically appealing in terms of people can see them, but a lot of the time they can't see what angle the lens is looking. So you'll see dome cameras a lot in a mall, office buildings and corners, or down long hallways. Turret cameras are also a great option for that. 360-degree cameras are just as they sound, cameras that give you a 360-degree view. They're not great in terms of zooming in to see things, but they give you a good picture of everything that it's seeing around it. Great place to use those are at intersections in big buildings. Fanshawe College uses them a lot in areas where 3 or 4 different hallways all connect, so they can see everything that goes on around. And PTZ cameras, or pan, tilt, and zoom cameras, are motorized cameras that either control themselves by using motion to track certain objects, or by a controller in a camera viewing room or at a computer to either program the camera to follow a certain path, or just as a camera to move manually.
Great.
Yeah. So a couple things that I'd like to maybe add or point out a little bit. And if you look at the bullet and you compare that to the mini dome or the dome, you know, a baseball bat or something like that whacking at that bullet, you can tell that it's going to be a little bit more susceptible to damage. So a lot of times you'll find bullet cameras quite a bit higher up on a building or whatever, and they might be useful there. The mini domes are lots of times on eaves and that kind of thing, whereas aesthetics is really a big issue where you want nice low profile. Dome is just a go-to camera all the time. Turret's like a dome, only you can kind of twist and aim it. The 360, I want to say a little bit, it's what we call, it's a fisheye lens camera. So if you looked at the raw video from it, it would be all distorted and warped. So they have to be on a network video recorder, or they have to have the smarts inside them to provide the de-warping technology to give you flat images that aren't distorted, so they're kind of cool.
Hmm.
And the PTZ is, they're fairly expensive. PTZ cameras are, but they can do a lot for you. And the fact that you can both go wide angle and zoom right in on an object is where they really sing.
Good. All right, so just a few more pictures from the Alarmtech archive. So residential front door area, yard view, driveway view. So this is someone who wanted to have quite a bit of video coverage of their property.
Hmm.
Up in the eaves, you can just see our nice, neat installations there. We take a lot of pride in it.
Yeah, those are the Total Connect cameras. So they're bullet with Wi-Fi antenna on it.
Right.